The Korath Empire arrived on a Tuesday morning. Their ships came out of faster-than-light travel just beyond the moon. 1,000 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They were dark and angular, covered in weapons that had destroyed 40 worlds. They moved together in perfect formation, a wall of death descending on an unsuspecting planet. General Vaughn commanded the fleet from his flagship. He was old, experienced, victorious. He had led the conquest of 12 worlds himself. He knew how these things worked. Show overwhelming force. Strike hard and fast. Wait for the surrender. It always worked. He looked at the blue planet below. Primitive. Weak. They had barely reached their own moon. Their ships were small and slow. Their weapons were laughable. This would be easy. Perhaps too easy. He gave the order. Begin the attack. The Korath ships opened fire. From orbit, they targeted everything that mattered. Military bases in the deserts of Asia. Spaceports on the coasts of North America. Naval fleets in the oceans. Communication centers on every continent. The strikes were precise, powerful, and without warning. In London, the sky turned orange as a spaceport burned. In Tokyo, people ran through streets filled with smoke. In New York, a military base disappeared in a ball of fire. In cities across the world, people looked up and saw death falling from above. General Vaughn watched the reports with satisfaction. The humans were confused. Scattered. They had no coordinated response. Their few ships were destroyed before they could launch. Their ground weapons could not reach orbit. It was exactly as he expected. They will surrender within hours, he told his officers. Prepare for ground forces. We will take their leaders and end this. His officers nodded and smiled. Another victory. Another world added to the empire. On Earth, something else was happening. In a bunker deep underground, President Eva Marlowe watched the attacks on screens. She saw the destruction. She saw the fires. She saw the death counts climbing. Her advisors stood around her, waiting for orders. One advisor said, "Madam President, we need to discuss surrender terms." President Marlowe turned and looked at him. She did not speak for a long moment. Then she shook her head. "No." The advisor blinked. "But Madam President, we cannot win. Their technology." "I know what their technology is," she said. "I also know who we are." She stood and walked to a camera. A red light blinked on. She was live, broadcasting to every screen that still worked on Earth. "People of Earth, look up. You see our enemies. They came without warning. They attacked our cities. They killed our people. They think we will surrender." She paused. Her voice was steady. "Here is my message to them. They wanted a war. They are going to get one." The transmission ended. Across the planet, people heard her words. In bunkers and basements, in caves and tunnels, in the rubble of destroyed cities, they heard. Emergency protocols activated. They had been written decades ago, updated every year, practiced by every generation. Plans for invasion. Plans for occupation. Plans for resistance. Every nation had them. Every city had them. Every family had them. Civilians moved to shelters. Subways became homes. Basements became hospitals. Tunnels became roads. Military forces mobilized. Not in grand formations where they could be targeted. In small groups, hidden units across the land. They knew their jobs. They had trained their whole lives for a war everyone hoped would never come. In space, General Vaughn watched the human response with confusion. The president had not begged. She had not offered surrender. She had promised war. His officers shifted uncomfortably. "Sir," one said, "they are not surrendering." General Vaughn waved a hand. "It does not matter. They will. Give them time to understand their situation. Fear will come." He turned to his communication officer. "Send a message to the homeworld. Tell them Earth is falling. Tell them to expect surrender within days." The message went out, traveling fast toward the Korath homeworld. General Vaughn sat back in his chair and smiled. Below him, on the blue planet, humans were moving. Not in panic. Not in fear. In something else entirely. They were preparing. Organizing. Waiting. In a basement in a ruined city, a woman loaded a rifle she had inherited from her grandfather. In a tunnel under a mountain, a soldier checked his equipment for the 10th time. In a farmhouse far from any city, a family packed supplies and waited for instructions. They had heard their president. They understood their situation. They were going to lose. Probably. Maybe. But they were going to make sure the Korath paid for every inch of ground. Every building. Every life. General Vaughn would learn soon enough. On a death world, surrender is not the first choice. It is not the second choice. It is not a choice at all. It is what you do when you have nothing left. And humanity was far from nothing. The first week changed everything. General Vaughn sat on his flagship, staring at reports he could not understand. His ships controlled the skies. His weapons could destroy any target. His soldiers were better trained, better equipped, better in every way. And yet, he was losing. The humans did not fight like anyone he had faced. There was no single army. No central command he could find and destroy. Every nation fought its own war. Every city had its own plan. Even small groups of humans made their own decisions, attacked when they wanted, disappeared when they wanted. His officers brought reports every hour. They all said the same thing. Confusion. Losses. No clear enemy. A squad of Korath soldiers entered a city that had been bombed. The buildings were empty. The streets were quiet. They moved carefully, weapons ready. Then a building exploded. Not a bomb. Something simpler. Gas and a spark. 5 soldiers died. Another squad accepted the surrender of a small group of humans. The humans put down their weapons and raised their hands. The Korath moved forward to take them prisoner. The humans picked up hidden weapons from under their clothes and opened fire. 7 more dead. A supply convoy moved through a mountain pass. Missiles launched from caves that had been hidden for years. 3 transport ships destroyed. Fuel and ammunition gone. The attackers were never found. General Vaughn read each report. He read them again. He tried to find a pattern, a weakness, something he could use. There was nothing. Just chaos. Just death. Just humans who refused to act like normal enemies. On the ground, the war looked different. Maria Gonzalez was a teacher before the invasion. Now she lived in the subway tunnels under her city with 200 other people. They had water from underground springs. They had food stored for emergencies. They had weapons taken from dead Korath soldiers. Every night, small groups went up to the surface. They placed bombs. They cut communication lines. They killed guards and disappeared before reinforcements arrived. Every morning, they came back down and reported to Maria. She kept notes. She planned the next night. She had never fired a gun before the invasion. Now she could not remember how many she had killed. In the mountains, a man named Jakob led a group of former soldiers. They had no orders from anyone. They simply found targets and attacked. A Korath patrol here. A supply depot there. A communication relay on a high peak. They moved fast, hit hard, and vanished into the forests. The Korath sent hunting parties after them. They never found them. The mountains belonged to the humans. They always had. In a farmhouse far from any city, an old woman named Alara lived alone. The Korath had not bothered with her area. There was nothing here. Just fields and animals. But Alara had a radio. She listened to the news. She heard about the resistance. She made a decision. When a small Korath supply ship landed near her farm to rest, she walked out with a shotgun. The soldiers inside were eating, relaxed, not expecting danger. She killed 3 before they could reach their weapons. The 4th escaped and called for help. By the time help arrived, Alara was gone, disappeared into the fields she had known since childhood. The Korath burned her farm. She watched from a distance and smiled. General Vaughn sent more soldiers down. He sent more ships. He ordered heavier weapons, more aggressive tactics. None of it worked. The humans adapted faster than he could react. Every tactic he tried, they found a counter. Every weapon he used, they found a weakness. A young officer came to him with a question. "Sir, why do they keep fighting? They have lost so many. Their cities are ruined. Their people are dying. In every other conquest, this is when they surrender." Vaughn had no answer. He had asked himself the same question 100 times. He looked at the reports again. More losses. More dead. More confusion. "I don't know," he admitted. "They should have stopped by now. They should be begging for mercy. Instead, they fight harder." He turned to his communication officer. "Send a message to the homeworld. Reinforcements needed. This world is not what we expected." The officer hesitated. "Sir, reinforcements will take weeks. Can we hold that long?" Vaughn looked at the blue planet below. It looked peaceful from here. Beautiful even. But he knew the truth now. That beauty hid something terrible. "I don't know," he said again. "I honestly don't know." Below, in the tunnels and mountains and fields, humans prepared for another night. They were tired. They were scared. They had lost friends and family. But they kept moving, kept fighting, kept hoping. Maria checked her list of targets for the night. A fuel depot, a guard post, a communication relay. Dangerous, maybe impossible. But possible was not the point. She looked at the people around her. Teachers and nurses and shopkeepers. None of them had been soldiers. All of them were now. "Let's go," she said. They went up into the night. The third week began like the others. More attacks, more deaths, more confusion. But something was different now. The humans were changing. General Vaughn noticed it first in the reports. The attacks were becoming smarter, more coordinated. A supply depot here, a communication relay there, a fuel storage facility somewhere else. All at the same time. All too far apart for his forces to respond to everything. They were learning, adapting, becoming something new. In a hidden laboratory under what used to be a city, a scientist named Dr. Elena Kuzmin worked on something she had dreamed about for 20 years. A way to defeat alien shields. The theory was sound. The math worked. But she had never been able to test it. Now she had no choice. She looked at the device on her table. Small. Ugly. Wires sticking out everywhere. It looked like something a child had built. But the readings were good. If it worked, it would change everything. If it worked. She sent a message through the resistance network. "I need a test. Find me a target." 3 days later, she got her answer. A small group of fighters had located a Korath supply convoy moving through empty space near the moon. Perfect. Isolated. Vulnerable. Dr. Kuzmin packed her device and went to meet them. The human ships were old and small. Cargo vessels converted for war. They had no business fighting Korath warships. But they had pilots, brave and desperate, willing to try anything. A young woman named Captain Saito commanded the group. She looked at Dr. Kuzmin's device and raised an eyebrow. "That's it. That's it," Dr. Kuzmin said. "Get me close enough to attach it to one of their ships. Then run." Captain Saito nodded. Simple enough. They launched into the darkness. The Korath supply convoy moved slowly, heavily loaded with fuel and weapons for the forces on Earth. 10 ships, guarded by 3 warships. Standard procedure. Nothing unusual. They did not see the small human ships approaching from behind the moon. Captain Saito guided her vessel toward the largest transport. Dr. Kuzmin sat behind her, clutching her device like a mother holding a child. The seconds ticked by. Warning alarms sounded as Korath sensors finally detected them. "Too late," Captain Saito whispered. "Hold on." She brought her ship right against the transport's hull. Dr. Kuzmin activated the device and pressed it against the metal. Magnets held it in place. A small light blinked green. "Done. Go. Go. Go." Captain Saito turned and accelerated away as fast as her old ship could manage. Behind them, the Korath warships turned to give chase. Missiles launched. Lasers fired. The human ships twisted and dodged, barely staying ahead. Then the device activated. The Korath transport's shields flickered and died. Just like that. Gone. The ship was naked, unprotected, vulnerable. Captain Saito saw it happen on her screens. She did not hesitate. All ships. Target that transport. Fire everything. The human ships turned as one and launched every weapon they had. Missiles. Lasers. Old cannons that fired metal slugs. All of it hit the transport at once. The transport exploded. Fuel and ammunition cooked off in a chain reaction that lit up the darkness like a small sun. The shockwave rocked the other ships. The Korath warships staggered, confused, their senses blinded by the light. Captain Saito did not wait. Again. Next target. The human ships attacked again. And again. 10 transports. 3 warships. All destroyed in less than 20 minutes. Not a single human ship was lost. On the Korath flagship, General Vaughn watched the reports in disbelief. A supply convoy. Destroyed. By human ships. With human weapons. It was not possible. It should not be possible. His officers brought more news. The humans had used something new. A device that disabled shields. They had it. They were using it. Every Korath ship was now vulnerable. Vaughn sat in silence for a long moment. Then he made his decision. Send the order. All ships. Prepare to withdraw. We are leaving. His officers stared at him. Leave. They had never left. They had never retreated from anything. Sir, one said carefully, the homeworld will not accept. The homeworld is not here, Vaughn snapped. I am. And I am telling you that if we stay, we die. These humans are not like the others. They will not stop. They will not surrender. They will keep coming until we are all dead. The order went out. Across the system, Korath ships began to move, pulling back from Earth, preparing to jump to faster than light. But retreat was not as easy as invasion. On the ground, humans saw the ships moving. They saw the pattern. The enemy was leaving. Maria Gonzalez emerged from the tunnels and looked up. The sky was clearing. The Korath ships were pulling away. They are running, someone said beside her. Maria nodded. Good. Let them run. In the mountains, Jakob watched the same thing. He lowered his rifle and allowed himself a small smile. It was the first time in 3 weeks he had felt anything but anger. They'll be back, he said quietly. But not today. In space, Captain Saito watched the Korath fleet prepare to jump. Her ships were too damaged to pursue. But she did not need to pursue. She had already won. Dr. Kuzmin sat beside her, exhausted but alive. It worked, she whispered. It actually worked. Captain Saito nodded. You changed the war today. Thank you. General Vaughn gave the final order. The fleet activated their faster-than-light drives and disappeared from the solar system. Behind them, they left ruined cities, dead soldiers, and a planet full of people who would never forget. The invasion was over. The war was not. General Vaughn thought retreat would be simple. He was wrong. The Korath fleet emerged from faster-than-light at the edge of the solar system. They needed to regroup, assess damage, plan the journey home. Vaughn looked at his screens. 60 ships had been lost in the invasion. 940 remained. Still a powerful force. Still enough to fight. Then the alarms began. Sir, multiple contacts. Small ships. Coming from the asteroid belt. Vaughn frowned. The asteroid belt was empty. They had scanned it before the invasion. Nothing there. More alarms. Sir, more contacts. From behind the moon. From the dark side of the third planet. From everywhere. The screens lit up with human ships. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. They came from places the Korath had never thought to look. Inside asteroids, where shipyards had operated in secret for decades. Behind moons, where bases had waited for a war that might never come. From the surface of planets, where weapons had been hidden under innocent ground. The humans had been preparing for this moment for a very long time. Vaughn stared at the screens. Where did they come from? How did we miss them? No one had an answer. The human ships did not form a battle line. They did not arrange themselves for a grand fight. Instead, they spread out, surrounding the Korath fleet from every direction. Small groups moved forward, attacked, and pulled back. They targeted the ships that were already damaged. The ones with weakened shields. The ones low on fuel. A Korath destroyer exploded. Then a transport. Then another warship. Vaughn ordered his ships to form a defensive formation. But the humans did not attack the formation. They attacked the edges, the stragglers, the ships that could not keep up. They moved like wolves around a herd, picking off the weak, never stopping, never resting. We need to jump, Vaughn told his navigation officer. Now, get us out of here. The officer shook his head. We cannot, sir. The humans have placed mines in our escape routes. If we jump now, we will fly into them. Vaughn looked at the screens. The mines were everywhere. Small, cheap, easy to deploy. The humans had laid them while the Korath were retreating, predicting exactly where they would go. They had planned this. All of it. The attacks continued through the hours. Ship by ship, the Korath fleet grew smaller. 900, 800, 700. Each loss was small, but together they added up. The humans did not need to win a big battle. They only needed to win 1,000 small ones. On a human ship, Captain Saito watched the destruction with cold satisfaction. Her vessel was damaged, barely holding together. But she did not need to fight. She only needed to watch. Dr. Kuzmin stood beside her. How many have they lost? Enough, Saito said. Not enough. But enough. Another Korath ship exploded in the distance. The humans around her cheered. Saito did not cheer. She simply nodded and moved to the next target. On the Korath flagship, Vaughn felt his world collapsing. His fleet, the mighty force that had conquered 40 worlds, was being destroyed by a species they had called primitive. Not in a grand battle. Not in a fair fight. In 1,000 small ambushes, each one insignificant alone, together unstoppable. He thought about the humans he had seen. The ones who fought from tunnels. The ones who used old weapons. The ones who never stopped, never surrendered, never gave up. He understood now. They were not fighting to win. They were fighting to make sure no one ever tried this again. And they were willing to die to make that happen. His communication officer spoke quietly. "Sir, we have one ship left that can make the jump. The rest are too damaged or too far away." Vaughn looked at the screens. 940 ships. Now less than 200. And dropping. "Can we take any of them with us?" The officer shook his head. "No, sir. We go alone, or we stay and die." Vaughn made his choice. "Prepare the jump. Set course for home." The officer hesitated. "Sir, the others. We'll die either way. At least this way, someone survives to warn them." The navigation officer worked quickly. The jump drive charged. The human ships were getting closer, sensing that their prey was trying to escape. Vaughn recorded one final message. His voice was steady, but his eyes held something new. "Fear. Real fear. To the homeworld. This is General Vaughn. My fleet is destroyed. The humans, they are not what we thought. They do not fight for glory. They do not fight for conquest. They fight because they will not stop fighting. Ever. Do not come here. Do not ever come here. These humans are not like the others. They will not stop." The jump drive activated. The flagship disappeared. Behind it, the remaining Korath ships fought on for a few more hours. Then they were gone too. All of them. In space, the human ships gathered. They did not celebrate. They did not cheer. They simply watched the empty space where the enemy had been. Captain Saito looked at the debris floating around them. Thousands of pieces of metal that had once been ships. Thousands of aliens who would never go home. "Did we win?" someone asked. Saito thought about the question. She thought about the ruined cities. The dead friends. The years of fear and preparation. "We survived," she said. "That's enough for today." Behind her, Dr. Kuzmin sat down heavily. The device that had changed everything was still in her hands. It had worked. It had saved them. But at what cost? The human ships began to move, returning to their hidden bases, their secret shipyards, their waiting positions. They would rebuild. They would prepare. They would wait for the next time. Because there would always be a next time. That was the lesson of human history. And they intended to be ready. In the darkness, the debris of the Korath fleet drifted slowly toward the sun. 40 worlds had fallen to them. Earth had not. Earth never would. The invasion was over. Earth counted its dead. Millions gone. Cities ruined. Families broken. The survivors emerged from tunnels and basements and caves, blinking in the sunlight, looking at the sky where the enemy had been. President Eva Marlowe stood in the ruins of the capital. Cameras recorded her words, broadcast to every surviving screen on the planet. "We survived," she said. "But surviving is not enough. We need to make sure this never happens again." People listened. They nodded. They understood. The rebuilding began immediately. But something else began too. Something the Korath never expected. Humanity built a fleet. Not for defense. Not this time. Shipyards that had hidden for decades opened wide. Workers who had spent their lives building for peace now built for something else. The fleet grew. Not as large as the one that had saved them. That was not the point. This fleet was for something different. 2 years after the invasion, the fleet was ready. 500 ships. Not overwhelming. Not enough to conquer. But enough for what they needed. They traveled to the Korath homeworld. The journey took months. The humans did not rush. They wanted the Korath to know they were coming. They wanted them to wait. To wonder. To fear. On the Korath homeworld, the arrival was seen long before the ships appeared. Sensors detected the human fleet approaching. Panic spread through the population. The military mobilized. Leaders gathered in bunkers. But the humans did not attack. They stopped at the edge of the system and waited. Then a single ship moved forward. It descended toward the capital city, slow and peaceful. No weapons visible. No threats broadcast. The ship stopped above the city and opened a channel to every screen on the planet. A human face appeared. General Haruto Chen, the man who had helped plan the defense of Earth. He looked older now, tired, but his eyes were hard. "You came to our world," he said. "You killed our people. You thought we were weak." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We are not weak. We are patient. We are watching. And we have learned where you live." Another pause. The Korath watched in silence. "This is the only warning you will ever receive. If any ship from your empire ever enters human space again, we will not come to talk. We will come to end you. All of you. The transmission ended. The human ship turned and rejoined the fleet. The 500 ships moved away, disappearing into the darkness from which they had come. On the Korath homeworld, no one spoke for a long time. Years passed. The Korath did not rebuild their invasion fleet. They did not plan new conquests. They simply stopped. They looked at the stars and wondered which ones held humans. And they stayed home. In a small village on the Korath homeworld, an old man sat with his grandson. The boy was curious, full of questions, as young ones always are. "Grandfather," the boy asked, "what are humans?" The old man stiffened. He looked at the sky, at the stars beginning to appear as the sun set. "We do not speak of them," he said quietly. The boy frowned. "Why not? Did we fight them?" The old man nodded slowly. "A long time ago. Before you were born. Before your father was born." "Did we win?" The old man shook his head. "No, we did not win." The boy thought about this. "Did they come here? Did they hurt us?" "No. They came here once. They gave us a message. Then they left." The boy did not understand. "If they did not hurt us, why do we not speak of them?" The old man looked at his grandson. He chose his words carefully. "Because they could have destroyed us. They had the power. They chose not to use it. But they want us to remember that they could. And we do. We always will." The boy looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, humans lived. He did not know what they looked like. He did not know what they wanted. But he knew one thing now. They were watching. The old man stood and took his grandson's hand. "Come inside. It is getting dark." They walked toward their home, small and simple, like all homes in the village. Behind them, the stars grew brighter. Thousands of them. Millions. Somewhere among them, humans watched back. The Korath Empire never invaded another world. They did not become peaceful. They did not become good. They simply became careful. They looked at the stars and remembered. And they stayed home. Forever.